In these words we've got the OI making the oi sound in choice, recall, exploit, toilet, and in these ones we've got weir, weird, seize, receive, perceive and sealing, and in those words we've got the EI making the sounds. So if you have a look within these words too, you can see some other things happening. In choice, we quite often use the CE for that sound at the end of a word, and we've got the CH with ch at the start. Recoil, is a prefix added to coil. Exploit, it's quite easy if you sound it out. Toilet, just remember it's ET at the end. Weir, we know there's no H after the W because there's no air when we say the word weir. And the same with weird. Seize, we're actually using the Z and the E at the end for the Z sound. Quite often we use SE, but occasionally you do actually see where we use the Z for the Z sound. Receive, well, you know the rule I before E except after C. We have a C there, so we reverse the letters to EI. Receive, the only reason we've got that E on the end there, we don't need it because we've already got the long vowel sound here, so it's nothing to do with making the vowel long. It's just because English words can't end with a V. And the same goes for perceive too. We only have that on there because English words can't end in V. Sealing, we've got the ing on the end there, and we know once again the C is making its soft sound because it's followed by an E, and it will always make its soft sound if it's followed by an E, an I or a Y. We're seeing that happening in a few of the words. Okay, let's go back and look at what these words mean. So choice is when we have an option. There are several things that we have to decide between. Recoil is to turn away from something. Exploit is to take advantage of something or someone. A toilet is could also be called a lavatory. We usually have one in every house at least. And in every building. A weir is a man-made water retainer. It's a big wall that they build to hold the water back across a river. Weird means something strange or odd. Seize means to grab something. Receive is when you're given something. Perceive is to sense something, and a ceiling is the upper part of a room. It's just under the roof but above the room. In these words we've got the OI representing the oi sound in the middle of a word, so we've got choice, recoil, exploit and toilet, and then we've got the EI making the long E sound in weir, weird, seize, receive, perceive and sealing. So the rule is I before E except after C where the sound is E, so that's why we've had to change the I before E to the E before the I in these words because they're following a C. So in this section you have to write the list word to match the meaning. We discussed those yesterday. Write the list word that these words are synonyms for. That means which list word means the same as sense, option, turn away. Now in this section you have to write the list word that are antonyms for these words. So they have to mean the opposite to ordinary and floor. In this section you're simply filling in the missing list word into these sentences to complete them, and down the bottom you're going to fill in the gaps and write sentences to show the different meanings. So we are, if we shorten that we end up with weir, whereas this weir here is a man-made wall against a river to hold back the water. In these words we've got the OI making the oi sound in the middle of these words, choice, recoil, exploit and toilet, and then we've got the EI in weir, weird, seize, receive, perceive and sealing. So you can go through and highlight those. Now down here you're just doing the simple verb family, so you're just changing these, if you haven't got the base word, change them back to their base word. Here you're adding the S. Here you're adding the ing. Remember, E goes away when ing comes to stay when you're doing that one. And then adding the ed at the end here for past tense. Now, if the E's already there, you don't need to add another one when you add the ed, just add the D. The same with here. If the E's already there, you're just adding, remember to just add the S after it. can you remember the rule for the long E sound in list words? Use I before E except after C when the sound is E. So write 3 words from the list that follow this rule, and then complete the following words which are exceptions to this rule. So you've got protein, C's, weird, and caffeine. Now do remember that EI can make 3 vowel sounds. It can make the long A sound in ate, the long I sound in heist, and the long E sound in protein. That's why it's not that they're not following the rule, it's just that there are different phonic rules that apply. So make the new word, then use it in a sentence. So you can work out what the word will be, write it on the line, and then use it in a sentence. You know comparatives and superlatives are adjectives, and so to change weird into a comparative we'd have to add ER to make it mean more, and to form a superlative we'd have to add EST to make it mean the most of something. This is a proofreading exercise for EI or IE. So the rule alert is, rule 1, use I before E except after C when the sound is E. And the exceptions are C's, we're, and weird. So careful, EI may say the long E sound, the long I sound, or the long A sound, and the exception there will be friend. So read and fill in the gaps with either EI or IE. Remember your rules from above. And then down the bottom, you have to fill in the gaps for the long E sound groups and write the word under the correct heading. So go through and work out which of these E sounds you're going to use to finish each of these words, and then you have to write them under the correct TP. Now, EA words, if by any chance you can associate them to eating, that's about the only hint we can give you to show the difference between the double E and the EA. So any way you can link these to eating, any way you can don't link the double E ones to eating. The IE, we know that's going to apply in the middle of a word for the E sound, and it's not going to be IE after a C. So be careful, like deceive, you know it's not going to be IE because you know after a C we use the EI. So that may help you too. Now this one causes a lot of problems for students and adults too, whether you use a Y or an EY at the end of a word. Now there are thousands of words that end with a Y for the long E sound. There are only about 10 or 20 that end with EY that you'd commonly use, and really if we looked at some of those words I'd probably say it's around 10 that you'd commonly use, like valley, monkey, money, honey, donkey, trolley, valley. Some of the words you're not going to use hardly at all, like alley, attorney, perhaps whiskey. There's some of them that are quite rarely used. So if you're in a test or you're writing, you're not sure whether it's Y or EY, always go for the Y because there are thousands of words that end in Y for the long E sound. So work your way through those. I think you should find that fairly easy to do. And remember the hints I've given you about the EA usually we can associate them somehow to eating, and the double E we don't want to associate to eating.